Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode featuring the Mole and Dicko. Lads, how are we? What a round of footy. More upsets. Did we get over 3 this week?
Yes.
I got 50%, so I'm happy with that. 4 out
Oh,
of 8.
yeah. There we go. That's better than nothing. I think I got 5, actually.
I did too. I started 0 for 3 and ended up with 5. Thank you.
Don't want to gloat, but I think that's my biggest score of the year.
Yeah, you are struggling.
I am cemented at the root of the table. Look, guys, quick summary from the week that was. But before we do, just massive shout out to our sponsors, High Caliber Racing, Create, Energy Pro, and Grip Socks. Thanks for making the podcast possible, guys. I really appreciate your help. If anyone hasn't seen any of our posts on our socials, check them out. There's links to our discount codes, to their pages alike. Give them a like, give them a follow, and get around it. Now, guys, the week that was, I'll tell you what, just going to go through a recap of each game. 30-12, Dolphins, Panthers. Panthers are in absolute dire straits right now. I don't know where they go to from here. Kudos to the Dolphins, though. Hit a bit of form. Dragons, too classy for the Titans. 38-16. Dragons, how do you pick that side? They beat Melbourne, lose to Parramatta, and then smash Titans. It's just
it's a nightmare.
It's a bizarre scenario there. Then let's go on to another team, same situation, Broncos. Beaten by the Chooks at home, looked to be sort of semi-dominating the game there at one point, and then, I don't really know what happened, but
yeah, that was a stunning result for me. I just couldn't see the Roosters winning up there with the team they had, and the new little halfback, great kicking game, Hugo. Rest of
he
them
sort of did, like, it was a grind, and the kicking game, surprisingly, Broncos very strong at. Savala almost outkicked Reynolds, which was
I'd agree with that. Yeah, I'd
very
agree with that.
interesting. Sharks, Seagulls, seriously, this was hard to watch. This was so painful.
Apart from Will Kennedy, who was just sensational.
Superstar. What about the try? Poor fella. The 90-meter effort that got cancelled out was just unbelievable.
Let's not talk about bunker decisions and stuff today. Otherwise, we could be here for 5 hours.
Yeah, you're not wrong. But yeah, also he made up for it, scored another try, another awesome solo effort, and the Sharks got the job done. More misery for the Seagulls, and I feel like a little bit more misery this weekend too. I'm excited about it.
There's a big burden hanging over the Manly side at the moment.
Huge. Now, Rabbitohs, Cowboys, I tell you what, the Rabbitohs have got some ticker. They have got some ticker because they made this result closer than it should have been. But again, kudos to the Cowboys, 3-3. Who would have thought after being absolutely pumped in the first 3 fixtures? Again, the curse of Penrith, just coming back to get everyone on the straight and narrow. It's not great. And then, it looks like it was a bit of a fairy tale last week with the Eels. Absolutely pumped.
I was impressed with the Raiders, though. Like, they fully put them to the sword, which is a sign of a good team.
Their forward pack?
Yeah, sign of a good team.
Yeah, I wrote right now, if you had to pick a team that was the biggest danger to Melbourne, it's the Raiders.
And
they can beat Melbourne at their peak if Melbourne are slightly off their game. They've got a great roster. The halves are firing. The outside backs are great, and they got that firepower up front with Corey Horsburgh and what's his name playing out of his skin?
Tarpany.
Hudson Young,
Hudson Young, he's just killing it. Like 2 tries again. So
and Zach Hoskins back this week as well to inject a little bit more spice into there. You might see him at lock. So just keep your eyes peeled there. But added firepower to the front row or to the forward pack, and they're certainly looking like one of the teams to beat this year. Storm Warriors. Classy first half again by the Storm.
Yeah.
Should Bellamy be concerned about this?
Oh, this is what they do. This is what they do, mate. They put games to bed early and then cruise. This is Melbourne.
The big difference there was Jerome Hughes came off at halftime and the Warriors won the second half. And I think that just shows how much they rely on Jerome Hughes, who to me is right up there with Cleary as the 2 best number 7s in the game.
Well, they are statistically poor without Jerome Hughes. In terms of like their win-loss ratio, I think with and without him isn't great.
Yes.
So Yeah, I mean, that's what they do, though. They cruise. It's the same with the season. They get their wins early, bank them, and then they cruise the rest of the way to the finals.
Big story coming out of this game. James Fisher-Harris, Peck.
Is he gone for extended period or?
I don't think they've announced the time frames, but as you know, Dicko, in your outer life outside the podcast, Peck injuries are not a quick recovery.
No, so there'll be some time on the sidelines if it is in fact ruptured, for sure.
He's done it before as well. So, yeah.
Generally, when they come off like that and they're holding it and there's ice there, they generally sort of know.
Barnett might actually show up now to some of the games. He's been a bit MIA.
You are harsh.
I'll tell you, I'll be harsh now. The Knights and the Tigers. The Knights are a joke. They are a joke.
They were embarrassing. That was an embarrassing performance at home before a full house. The number of times they dropped it on the first tackle, they're trying to give Adam O'Brien an ulcer, I swear. They were just awful.
Well, it was last night, and I encourage everyone to get around this. This is promoting another podcast, by the way. Matty and Kronk on Fox League. Great analysis and insights into key talking points throughout the weekend. Matty, in particular, identifying the shape football that the Knights are playing versus the other teams. And if you get a chance to watch that episode from last night, make sure you do it because it is dismal in terms of the way that they play shape and the roles that each player plays in each of those, sort of block shape players out the back. And you'll know what I mean when you see it. And I wish we could put a clip up. And I want to try and find this clip and put it in our socials. But when you see teams play shape, you've got lead runners, normally 2 or 3 when they're switching out wide. These guys were not even they weren't even lead runners. They were you could tell they were just pretending to catch it. And it was actually embarrassing. And that's why their attack has been so easy to read because you dead set wouldn't have fooled an under-12s team with some of the shape they were playing. It was just woeful. And I'll see if I can find the clip because you'll know what I mean when I show you that.
Well, there's zero creativity out of it, apart from Pine.
Yeah. Phoenix Crossland isn't a half.
No, he's not a number 7. And the score lines the last 2 weeks show it. They've scored 1 try in the last minute against the Tigers through a scrappy little bit of pinball that happened to go their way.
I think it was 4 hours of footy. And do you know what? I think Adam O'Brien needs to get over himself and play Jackson Hastings.
Yeah, well, maybe he's the answer. But, word is he's not a popular player in the camp and they want to move him on. So, it's a mess. They've got about 6 halfbacks, but none of them are much good. So it's a worry.
Right. Oh, well, they got Dylan Brown to come and play halfback next year. Let's see how that goes. No doubt. All right, moving on. Round 7. But before we do, Lachlan Galvin, guys. What are your thoughts on this situation from what you've heard so far? Molly.
Yeah, well, I think it all comes down to his manager, Isaac Moses. From what I've heard, he was very happy at the Tigers. He was content to stay there, but Moses has got inside his head and said, this isn't the future. And it's resulted in this mess we've got where, you can have an amicable divorce, but this is about as disharmony one, for the want of a new word I've just made up, that I've ever seen. And the end result is he's dropped for this weekend, and it's not really a shock because I don't think the players are all that wrapped. I don't think they want to play with him. The management's filthy with him. The management's filthy with Isaac Moses. There's no way he'll be at the Tigers next year, even though he is contracted to them, and the club said he will be seeing out his contract. It's just untenable.
Especially getting dropped straight away.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the Tigers sending a message that, okay, you don't want to be here? No problem.
You know what? I like it. I like the Tigers in their stance. I love it. They offered him, 5 years at $6 million, apparently.
And an extra 500,000 for this year.
Yeah. So, and he said no. And they've gone, well, we're not going to offer you any more. And why would you offer him any more? The bloke's played, 30 NRL games? And I must admit, he hasn't He's played good games, but I don't think he
Look,
set the
he's
world
good. He's
on
got
fire.
potential. He's probably the best upcoming half. But we're talking $1 million a season. Like,
Yeah,
how
that's
greedy
right.
do you want to be?
And then you got the club who's just gone, you know what? If you're not going to take it, we've got nothing else for you. You either take it and otherwise we move on. And they've moved on. And then they go, well, why are we going to develop you for an extra 18 months if you're not going to be here post 2025 or 26?
Any
Let's see you later.
any first thoughts on where you think he might end up? I tell you one place he won't be, and that's at the Chooks because they can't stand Moses.
Yeah. Yeah, having said that, though, I mean, Gus can't stand him either. There's plenty of people who don't like him, but Gus is smart. He'll just get someone else to do the work for him because he wants Galvin in his club. And so you'll get Cameron Serraldo or the CEO or someone else to talk to him. But look, my tip today on the Wide World of Sports website, I said Manly because he's very close to Westfield Sports where he went to school. He won the Australian Schoolboys title there. Two of his coaches there are also on the Manly staff. And of course, Isaac Moses, we keep going back to him. He happens to manage Anthony Seibold. So to me, Manly is the favourite at this stage.
Yeah, you might be on something there, Molly, because I think Jamal Fogarty, from what I've heard, is probably going to stay at Canberra now.
Yeah, well, Ricky certainly kicked up a stink, hasn't he? And he's not gonna let him go without a fight, and he won't come cheap, Fogarty. So yeah.
So is Isaac Moses Galvin's direct manager, or is he just the head of the management company?
Well, he's the head of the management company. Theoretically, some young guy's his manager, but you can bet Moses is the one pulling the strings. And Moses basically told the Tigers, "Don't even bother handing us your offer," which is really disrespectful.
So can the Bulldogs afford him?
Oh, the Gus will find a way.
Is that why they were trying to offload Reed Marnie, do you think?
Well, that sort of happened before all this, so who knows? But
did it?
Yeah.
Well, it did happen before, but you know what Gus is like. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, everyone knew this was coming. I mean, it was just a question of time. I heard before Christmas that there's rumblings between Moses and the Tigers, and the kid's going to move on. And I think most of the journos heard the same thing. And now it's all come to a head.
Could we have a situation where Dylan Brown moves to Newcastle this season and Lachie Galvin ends up at Parramatta this season?
Well, stranger things have happened. That's for sure. But
tell you what, Parramatta actually need him.
Yeah.
Well, they're in the same situation, realistically, aren't they?
Yeah. Now, speaking of Moses, Mitchell Moses, he's back. He's back this weekend.
Hear that. Yeah, I did hear that.
He is set to return for the Easter Monday clash. And on that note, let's dive straight into the first fixture, Easter Thursday. Seagulls Dragons, guys. This one is very, very interesting. Seagulls coming off back-to-back losses, disappointing performances. Dragons coming off a very convincing win against the Titans. What are we thinking for this fixture? It's at 4 Pines Park again. What have they got? 7 out of the first 9 fixtures.
Well, I'm just going to go and grab a coin. I'm going to, flip it, and whatever it comes down on, I'll choose, because in this one, there's not really a form line, I wouldn't have thought. Like, the Seagulls have been okay, but patchy. The Dragons have been good and crap. So,
yeah,
I can't get a read on either of these. If Manly don't win at home this game, I think you can almost kiss the season goodbye. Because, as you said, there are a lot of home games at the start of the season. They're going to get a lot of away games towards the back end.
Yep.
So they need to bank their home games. And I feel like they just lose a lot of touch with the top 6, 7 teams. Yeah. And
they're going to lose probably DCE, Travojevic, and Olakau'atu, and they're screwed.
Well, that's right. And then Origin period is going to be a big thing for them. So, I really think this is almost what are we, round 7? This is almost a do or die clash for them. Like, this early in the season, it's the same really for the Dragons. You start to lose touch, and then you're playing catch up for the rest of the season.
Well, it's so tight. Like, the Seagulls are actually sitting in 8th spot somehow, and the Dragons are in 10th. I mean, Does that go to show you like how poor some teams are or how good some teams have been?
Well, sooner or later, Penrith's going to have to start winning some games, aren't they? Like,
well, that's right.
they
I'm looking
can't
at the
sit
ladder
second
right
last
now,
for the
down in
next 6
16th.
months.
Dear, oh dear.
Yeah.
So if you were to throw a dart at this one, where's
Mm.
your money at, boys?
Guys, I like Manly at home. You know, they don't lose many there. The Dragons don't really impress me. Yes, they somehow beat the Storm, but apart from that, they haven't done an awful lot. And 3.5 start is the start to the Dragons. I see that as a good value on Manly. Manly are a good free flowing side against a team that won't tackle, and the Dragons have got. I find the Dragons, they're a big team and they can intimidate sides, but they're also a bit slow in defence.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those big guys up front, slow moving laterally. And I think smart players like Cherry Evans, Brooks, they can exploit that. Turbo's missing, but they're probably my bet of the round. So I've just given them
bet of the round.
The kiss of
Jesus.
death.
Holy
well,
dooly.
I'm gonna jump on the Mole's bandwagon. I was gonna go Manly before he said it, so I think Manly at home will be too strong for the Dragons.
Look, no pun intended, guys, but the Eagles are going to get their wings clipped here.
Yeah, you know what? I was hoping someone went the Dragons because it's not the worst bet.
You will feel. Look, you're right, Dicko. What you said before. This is a test for both sides to where they're at, because realistically, this one should be close as, and could go either way, right? But you know, we've said that a few weeks. I think Mole, you said the golden point in the Dragons Titans, and the Titans basically didn't even show up for the majority of that game.
Yeah.
So that's not on you, mate. Look, confidence is a big thing in rugby league, and at the moment, Dragons are sky high, and the Seagulls are down in the dumps. And their attack against the Sharks, albeit they had to travel to Perth, looked very clunky. And for the first time this season, Dragons look pretty sharp in attack. And I think some of these new combinations, there's a lot of new players there, like between Damien Cook, their whole spine is new, literally their entire spine. Now they're starting to get games under their belt. I think they're going to start hitting their straps, and you can't beat Melbourne by a fluke. So lock in the Dragons, guys. Lock in the Dragons.
Lock in the Dragons. I like it.
Good Friday fixtures. Now, 70,000 expected at this game. Bulldogs versus Rabbitohs. I'll tell you what, when the Bulldogs are going poorly, it's crickets. But when they're going well, holy dooly. And I live right next to Belmore these days. So it is absolutely pumping. Even in that main strip there at Burwood Road, every single cafe, convenience store, barber shop has got footies, jerseys, hats, scarves, all over this place. And it's
good for the game.
It's brilliant to see. It is really brilliant to see. Can we see the Rabbitohs doing any damage here?
Oh, I can see it happening, yep.
Yeah, they've still got a few players out, the Rabbitohs, though. And, the halfback, Lewis Dodd, I guess a lot of it's going to be on him.
You finally get to go.
Yeah, and it's a very, very tough game to make your debut in, particularly the pressure he's going to be under with that full crowd and the Bulldogs fans screaming for his blood. So it'll be interesting. For me, the Dogs.
This will be a bash-up. This will honestly be a dead-set bash-up. Wayne will want this in close. He'll want the forwards to belt each other. He'll make it really simple for the Rabbitohs, I reckon, because I don't think they have a lot of creativity with some of the guys they have out. So I reckon it'll be won and lost in the forwards, which is what most games are. I do think it'll be closer than what a lot of people think. The Bulldogs are going to lose at some point. So it's if you're brave enough to bet against them, that's where you're going to pick up a tip on your relative tipping comps. But if Cody Walker and sort of these guys were back in and they were fully fit, I'd be inclined to tip the Rabbitohs, but I can't see them without them getting this one done. So it's the Bulldogs for me.
Yeah, I'm going to jump on the back of it, guys, and really, really bullish on this one. I think the Bulldogs have the highest winning margin this weekend. I think they win this by 30 or more. I think this is going to be... I think the wheels are really going to fall off. I feel like the Rabbitohs have done unbelievably well to be where they are. Because realistically, they've probably been the poorer side in every single fixture this entire season and have basically been gritty and won most of their games on that alone. And with the line speed of the Bulldogs, they're going to get not one sniff. And I think the Bulldogs will absolutely smash them.
Yeah. Wouldn't surprise me, but I reckon
I'm talking 40-6.
Yeah, I reckon 12 to 20 points they'll win by.
12 to 20. There you go.
If the Bulldogs win and the Storm lose, the Bulldogs will go 4 points clear, 7 rounds in at the top of the table.
Well, good segue, Dicko, because we're going to talk about that game right now. Do the Dolphins have a chance?
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
But they have to throw the footy around.
Yeah.
You're not going to
beat. That's what they do, isn't it?
That is what they do. Absolutely. Yep. And I think.
And they just give it to the hammer, and away he goes.
Well,
and
just what I was about to say, Molly. The hammer, he's the X factor in it, right?
Yeah.
Melbourne generally, when there's a really nifty fullback, quick footwork around the ruck, the Storm can struggle a little bit if the forwards hold their own. So Dolphins have to go out there with just a clear mindset, throw the footy around. If we lose by 20, we lose by 20. Because realistically, if they try and get into a grind, it's just going to be all over. It's going to be a dull fest. The Storm will probably win by 20 plus.
Yeah.
But if they throw it around, give the hammer and Herbie and these guys some good early footy.
Avarillo,
yep.
Sarko scores a try a week. So.
Yep, they're definitely a chance. So I give them a better chance than the $4 they're paying, for sure.
Yes. Yeah. 5-day turnaround here for the Storm as well.
I will tip the Storm, though.
Yeah, but look, 5-day turnaround. So this is, I believe, the first 5-day turnaround fixture of the season for any side.
Mm-hmm.
Storm only just played on Sunday, and they play Friday, and they've got to travel.
And I think the Storm's record at Suncorp is about 1,000 wins and about 3 losses. So they do travel to Suncorp very well.
Yeah, look, I think the Storm will win, but I think it'll be pretty close.
Yeah, and Jerome Hughes, who we spoke about earlier, is such a key man. That 5-day turnaround might count against him. I think at this stage they're going to pick him, but Bellamy might say, come Friday morning, maybe we should just rest him. You know, worst comes to worst, we drop 2 points, but they can probably win without him. It'll be a lot tougher. But with Munster in there calling the shots, they should still be too strong. So Storm for me.
Yep.
Warriors, Broncos. Only the 2 fixtures Saturday due to the long weekend. This is over in New Zealand. Now, I tell you what, at $3.10 for the Warriors, not bad value.
Have you seen them play this year?
The Warriors? Well, it depends which Warriors and Broncos team we're talking about.
Yes.
Sometimes they show up and they're well. I mean, the Warriors are sitting in 6th spot.
Yeah.
They've come up with some really strong results at times, and then at other times, absolute garbage. They beat the Roosters, who just beat the Broncos. So, and their Warriors are playing Broncos.
So they are missing CNK. They're missing RTS. They're missing James Fisher-Harris. So, I mean, if Brisbane are fair dinkum, they have to put the Warriors to the sword here in Auckland if they're fair dinkum about this. I think Brisbane will win, but this game always concerns me when they travel to New Zealand because historically Brisbane, what I've seen this year from the Broncos is if they are physically challenged, they've been challenged a couple of times by Canberra in round 2 and then against the Roosters. And I think, I can't remember who said it in an article yesterday, that if you can shut down Pat Carrigan and Payne Haas, or at least keep them in check, Brisbane don't have any other avenue to go forward, which they struggle with at the moment. Their forwards off the bench just haven't come on enough in terms of development. So if a team is going to challenge them physically, it'll be the Warriors. They'll be up for it. And I just
Haas
think
was very quiet last week, wasn't he?
I agree with you, Molly. Yeah, I was there at the game. I 100% agree with you.
Which probably is a good sign for the Broncos because I reckon Madge would have put the rocket up him this week and he'll come out firing and no Big Boppers, no James Fisher-Harris there for the Warriors, I think he might run riot, and when he does, they feed off that, and Reece Walsh has suddenly got room to move. Reynolds and these guys, Stags, there's so much firepower in that Broncos team. I still can't believe the Roosters beat them, actually.
So what I thought about the Broncos last week is I thought they were a bit too sideways. So I really thought they tried to go around the Roosters, and that played into the Roosters' hands. They wanted to play really narrow and really physical, and they were able to do that. So Brisbane really just needed to roll the sleeves up and go forward, grit the teeth, and have a dig and earn the right to go out wide. You know what I mean? You're not gonna give Walsh any space off slow play the ball. So you got to get quick play the ball. You got to earn that right, then give him the ball, and he can go to work.
Well, this is almost a must-win game for the Broncos if they're fair dinkum about being top 4, because they play the Bulldogs, then the Panthers.
Yeah, it's a tough block coming up. Yep.
Fixtures, followed by
Origin.
Yeah, followed by the Rabbitohs, who aren't
easy beats.
Rollovers. Look at it. Yeah, this is going to be a.
So they got Jack Jasewski's out. Jack Jasewski's out, suspended. But I think Jordan...
He's been playing well for him too.
Yeah, and I think Jordan Ricky comes back from suspension.
Back.
Yeah. Jaden Hunt was actually really good for the Broncos last week. He had a red-hot dip.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of... And you said Corey Pakes potentially isn't out.
Yeah, I believe that Smoothie's on the bench with Billy Walters starting. I'm not sure what that injury is, but...
So that's a must-watch. Or, when the team lists drop later this afternoon, we'll put that up and we'll let everyone know. But yeah... That's going to be interesting. Like, it's a bit of adversity for Brisbane in terms of team selection. They've had a pretty stable team for like 6 weeks so far. So it'll be interesting to see how they go. Might galvanise them going over the ditch. You never know. Yeah. After last week, let's hope we get a few more penalties than what we did last weekend.
Yeah. Oh, dear.
What about some
6 agains?
I'll tell you what's interesting about the Broncos. I don't know if you guys saw it, but they've been circulating on social media, these photos of them in the rooms before the game, and all the guys sort of smiling, laughing. I think they thought they just had to turn up to beat the Roosters and, give their fans a night out. And they were in for a very rude shock. The Roosters came out and smashed them from tackle number 1.
It's funny you say that. I've seen it. I've seen that. Like, what do you think about that? Like, you don't want to lose the authenticity of a player and how he prepares for a game, right? So. But you are right. It reeked of a little bit of... I mean, we wouldn't be talking about this if they won, right? But it did reek of a little bit of complacency, I must admit. I was at the ground. I didn't see it until after. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that sort of now I can sort of understand why they put in a performance like that. If they're a bit lackadaisical and jovial in the change rooms beforehand, are they up for it? And they weren't physically, as you said, Mole. So... Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that.
It's interesting because there's probably 2 factors here. Complacency come from obviously the result in round 1, right?
Yep.
What I find bizarre about this NRL draw is that these 2 teams have already played each other twice.
Yeah.
And the Tigers have already played the Knights twice.
Yeah.
And this weekend, Penrith plays against the Roosters, who they've already played as well. So at round 7, there's 3 fixtures that have been played twice, and some of the teams you only play once.
Doesn't make sense, mate. I'm telling you, it does not make sense.
But
it's all done randomly by a computer, and the computer obviously has just no common sense. And
I believe it's done in Canada. So Canada are the ones to blame for their algorithm. So we're locking in the Broncos. Is that the verdict? Broncos easy. That's what we reckon. Broncos.
No. No, Broncos, yes, but not easy.
All right. Shit. I don't know.
Here we go, boys. Here it is. The Panthers.
Roosters versus Panthers. It's at Allianz. I will more than likely attend this fixture.
Okay. Well, what I will say is that this is stating the obvious, but Penrith just have to win this. They honestly just have to win this game. I mean, that's the most obvious thing you'll ever hear from any of us this year on this podcast, right? They're going to have to play a hell of a lot better than what they're playing. Their right side defense is an absolute basket case. I've literally banged on about this for 2 years.
Both sides.
They cannot defend on the right. I do not know why Paul Alamotti is not playing left centre, firstly. Didn't he play left centre in the grand final and was almost the best player on the field?
Yeah, scored a try. Or did he score 2? I'm trying to remember.
So unless, it might have been 2, Mole. You might be right. But unless they're worried about yardage coming out of the back, and that's why he's on the wing, I don't know.
But I think it's more Brian Toto being out.
But now it's time. It's time, Ivan. You need to get him back to left centre. You need to shore up the edges because all of a sudden, that channel between Tungo, Alamotti, and then Tungo Cleary is just it's not even a giveaway sign. It's a highway.
Yeah.
They are finding holes in that edge like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah. But the Roosters' edge around Dom Young is rather fragile, to say the least.
That's true. This one could be just a shootout. And both teams just, wanting and having to win, really, because they're 15th and 16th on the ladder.
Well, for the first time in 5 years, what we saw when Penrith v the Dolphins is when Penrith got behind, or when they used to get behind, they used to galvanise themselves as a team, right? And it was still structured, their style of footy, but it was a bunch of 13 individuals trying to solve problems by themselves. And that was the first time I've seen that in 5 years. And I sat there and I was like, I literally can't believe what I'm watching here. But you've got 13 guys out there that are just pulling in all these different directions and are really just not working as one cohesive unit, hence why they're conceding 30 points a game. But, I think, they're definitely good enough. But as we said last week, the Luai, the Fisher-Harris, these guys were, and I think I sent you a message, Dizz, after the game. I said, instead of worrying about 5, 6, and 7 players, teams literally only have to shut down 3 guys now. And then they only have to shut down Cleary, Yeo, and Edwards. If they keep them in check, where's Penrith's avenue to points?
Well, I think we have traditionally been very good at the grind, right? And that grind comes from Cleary's kicking game and the field position that we generate as a result of not only Cleary's kicking game, but just our go forward and our ability to get yardage out of the backfield. All of a sudden, you take out Toto and Suni Taruva, who's been sort of the unsung yardage maker for Penrith of the past and sort of gone unnoticed and galvanised the Tigers in terms of them getting out of yardage. We look so poor coming out of our own end, and teams are on purpose not kicking to Dylan Edwards for that sole purpose. And it's the same as the Knights. Everyone's kicking to Greg Marzuk because they know he can't catch a cold. and he's not that fast. Yeah, he's a tackle breaker, but put pressure on him there and, they're in strife.
There's some definite weaknesses, as you say, mate. There's alarming weaknesses, I think. I think it's almost... I don't think nothing has changed over the past 6 weeks for me in terms of the way Penrith have played, right?
That's concerning.
So the cattle's not there.
I posed a question 2 weeks ago. So they're only 1 and 3 or something at that stage. Could Penrith miss the 8? And, it's looking more and more likely, as unbelievable as it would have been, after Vegas. They haven't won since Vegas. They're the only team not to win in Australia. It's just stunning.
So they lose here on the weekend, and they will fall 4 wins outside the 8.
Well, guys,
and with Origin period to come.
I honestly think we're in. Well, it's not obvious, but we're in strife and big strife because not only are we 1 and 5, but we play the Roosters this weekend. We then play the Sea Eagles, followed by Broncos.
That's 3 games they could lose.
And then Cowboys up in Townsville, who we just lost to.
Yeah, that's 4 games they could lose.
Our next 2 points might come in round 11 bye.
And that could be a struggle.
We could literally be last. Yeah. And I think I've said it for the last few weeks. The only saving grace for Penrith is that they are playing poor. We are playing poor. If we were trying our guts out and getting beaten, different story. But we have been uncharacteristically very, very poor with the ball in our hands. Not so much defensively because that's, an attitude thing and comes on the back of, scoreboard pressure, whatever, taking a few risks, individuals, team cohesion, all of the above has an effect on that. And so does attack. And a lot of those games, arguably, we could have lost all of them. Like, we could have lost against the Sharks as well. But we also could have won all of those games, probably except for the Dolphins game, unfortunately. But if you look at that first half performance, Penrith were by far the most dominant side in that first half. The Dolphins against Dolphins.
Yep.
The Dolphins had 2 opportunities.
And they sliced through them like butter, mate.
Mm.
Sliced through them like absolute butter. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's not good.
It's not, no. But, is it the case of the style of footy, the style of Penrith has had for 5 years, are the players that they've brought in just not up to that style?
Absolutely.
Do they have to now change? And this is the thing.
Yeah. There's this system that they've been so proud of. It has to be a new system with the caliber of players that we have, because they're just not. It's either that or play the long, patient game.
So is this then a player? Are we asking questions of players now, or are we looking at Ivan and his first big challenge as the Penrith coach in this stint? Are we sort of thinking, what's he going to do here? How? Because we all sit here and we've said, and I'm sure you've written articles, Molly, for Wide World Sports about how great he is as a coach, and 4 premierships, 5 grand finals. But every time they've faced adversity, a player's just slipped into the system, and it's just worked like a new cog on a conveyor belt. But now the cattle's not there, so it's either does he stick with the system or does he create a whole new system? I think he needs to create a whole new system because the cattle's not there. You don't have a 5'8". You've got dead set 3 makeshift 5'8s. Penrith don't have a 5'8". They had a 5'8 in Jerome Luai, and he's now playing for the Tigers. They don't have a 5'8". Blaze Tuolangi is an outside back at best. He's not a 5'8". He doesn't create with the footy, right?
Yeah.
He's like a Fletcher Sharp. Like,
they're makeshift 5'8s, mate. If they don't have space, they can't create with the football.
They might play juniors in the halves, but that's nothing when you're elite.
So you either push him back to fullback if Edwards is not there, you stick him in the centres, or you stick him on the wing, and you go out and find a 5'8".
I think bottom line of what you guys are saying, and I think you'll agree, the well has finally run dry. Every year they've lost 2-3 players out of their premiership team. Up till now, they've been able to replace them, but the guys they've lost this year, specifically Fisher Harris and Luai, they just haven't been able to replace. And Mitch
Kenny's now out for a few weeks as well.
Yeah.
So this is what I think, guys. I think that Ivan is stuck between a rock and a hard place, because the basic fundamentals of rugby league, run hard, tackle hard, hold the football, haven't happened. And he hasn't been able to get a proper gauge of how these players fit into a system, because constantly been defending our own line and playing under fatigue as a result of not being able to hold the football. Now, the defensive side of things is systematic. That's something that I don't think we should change. That's just something where personnel need to actually buy into that, and I've identified it, and I kind of want to break it down a little bit more externally, like in our podcast to our followers and fans, just how disjointed they look. You look at the Bulldogs and it's kind of, one in, all in. Whereas Penrith's, Dicko alluded to the, sort of relying on individuals in attack. They've been doing the same in defense.
I'm trying to solve problems individually.
And in the wrong spots against the wrong players. Like, you don't try and do that against Jake Averillo and Hemiso Tabuai-Fidow, because they'll burn you to smithereens on their pace. They need to play almost condensed and conservative and stop, I guess, the ability for them to have that open space. Like, just shut it down completely and you don't have to shoot out of the line. Like, there's no reason for it. But Liam Martin, every set, surprise, surprise, he might be the enforcer, but he's the problem. He is the problem. because
he's overplaying his hand, isn't he? And
Yeah.
getting him in the strife a bit.
he's that right side, which is forcing Tungo, who naturally isn't the greatest defender anyway, to have to make decisions quicker or, off the cuff without, Liam Martin in line because he's shot out. And then the slide from Cleary as a result of, I don't know, whether that's communication from Tungo and Alamotti with a new combination out there. But yeah, I don't know. It's bizarre. It is really bizarre.
It's a shambles, that right side. It's an absolute
it's
shambles. I think
not-
it's something like over 30 tries conceded on that right side this season already.
Well, then the problem you've got on the left is you've got Jenkins and Casey McLean, and Blaze Talangi last week. Seriously, probably the three most inexperienced, worst defenders we've got in our team. On the right. So Dolphins were just going, all right, let's just shift the ball sideways and say thanks for coming.
You know what? As not a Penrith supporter, I'm loving it. I'm loving this. How good is it?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it too, I got to say.
It's bloody rough. Anyway, let's leave it there. Who are we tipping?
The Panthers.
You're kidding.
Yeah, that makes two of us. I think they'll come good.
Yeah, the Panthers.
Yeah, lock in the Roosters. All right. Sunday footy. Titans versus the Raiders. Guys, I'm going to call an upset here. Is that fixture right? Titans Raiders?
Yeah, that's right. God, see
yeah.
money.
Titans. Lock in the Titans.
Oh,
I reckon they upset the apple cart here and stop the momentum of Ricky.
Everything on form says Raiders, but the way this season's been going, I can see where you're coming from, Diz. You can just see the Titans winning. And
you've got to throw in a couple of upsets, surely.
Yeah, exactly. But on form, you've got to go Raiders. They're really impressing me with everything they've done. We spoke about them earlier.
My theory is, and you guys said that Tino wouldn't make a massive impact. He made a huge impact. Huge impact. Bigger than everyone thinks, right? In attack and defense. Leadership. Just his presence and his attitude, I believe, changes the Titans completely. You noticed when he went injured last year, they went 0-6 to start the year, and he got injured in round 2. This is the first game that he hadn't played last week, and they were horrible, absolutely horrible.
Now, Fafita had a dig last week. Does that mean he's going to go quiet?
Well, he actually had a crack. So Dicko, the downhill skier, Big David.
Yeah, he was at the top of the slopes last week. No, he was at the top of the slopes last week. This week he's down the bottom.
Is he in line for Origin selection now?
Ooh, well, no. There is.
I mean, he needs to string 4 of those in a row.
We are going to pull out our Origin teams in a few weeks, and there's some surprises in mind for Queensland. I'm telling you. Yeah. There's some surprises, so stay tuned for that. And Fafita is not one of them.
No, that is not a surprise. Are we locking in Raiders, guys? What's the?
Yeah, I'm going the Raiders. It's funny. I'm sort of, as you were talking, I'm looking.
You can't see the Raiders faulting, can you?
I can't see the Titans the Raiders are not going to beat themselves, and I just can't see the Titans playing well enough to get over the top. So I'm going to tip the Raiders here, who are doing an astronomical amount of travel. The Raiders.
Oh. Yeah, they are. Yeah, they're traveling the world.
What have they been to? Vegas. They've been to Darwin, Townsville, and back to Canberra. And now they're off to the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
But it doesn't affect them. Ricky's a smart operator, and he's really showing it here.
Look, young group. They thrive off that probably bonding time on the road.
Yeah.
They don't have families as such.
So there you go, boys. Lock in the Raiders. Easy. Simple.
Yep. Done.
I think I might switch to the Raiders. We'll go with the Raiders. I think. You've got me. You've got me.
You didn't want to tip the Titans.
I tell you one team that I won't be tipping this weekend, and this is the next fixture. That's the Knights versus the Sharks. The Knights are a basket case, and they will not be getting Dizz's tip.
I'm going to tip the Sharkies, but what I want to see this week is I want to see the Sharks on the back of a good performance last week. They were good enough to win. Manly, good side.
Yep.
I want to see them put the Knights to the sword here. I really want to see him go down in Newcastle and really put the Knights to the sword.
Well, it's an opportunity for both sides, isn't it? It's an opportunity for the Sharks to really put the foot on the throat and stamp their authority in the comp because they're in ninth.
Well, I think if the Knights put together another performance like they did last week, we need to start beating the drums on potentially a coach or the coach moving on, because I'm not seeing any improvement out of that team.
Yeah, the question for me, guys, is not who wins the game, but whether the Knights trouble the scoreboard. The way they've been going. I mean, they just don't look like scoring tries.
I think it's since round 2, 1 try.
Yeah, that's disgraceful, really.
Yeah.
And the try they scored last week against the Tigers, the game was over and it was a flum.
Are you concerned that with the lack of, and there's like kind of two parts to this story, are you concerned of the lack of involvement of Kalen Ponga in the first 2 weeks versus since they had the bye? And is the bye the reason that they've just gone schmozzles?
Well, I think they've just been getting dominated physically, so he can't actually get himself involved in the game because, as the Mole said...
So you think Kalen's doing enough?
Well,
my question, really.
Oh, I think he's trying really hard, but I think it's really difficult when your side's going backwards. And as the Mole said, they're dropping the ball on tackle 1. So what's he expected to do?
And they got a lot of injuries too.
And they've got some injuries, but at some point in time, your bit part players have to start putting their hand up and going, you know what, I've just got to be better. And that's what I think the Knights are at.
Yeah. Yep. Guys, there was a very telling moment in that loss to the Tigers where Adam Dewey, the Knights dropped the ball on the first tackle by coincidence. It came out quickly to Dewey. He shot over in the corner and scored. Ponga came across, didn't even try to tackle him, and Dewey said thanks very much and took it 5-10 metres over closer to the post to make his kick for goal.
Right.
And that sent real alarm bells to me because Ponga is so much quicker than Dewey. He was never going to stop the try, but he should have had a go.
So do you think he's losing a bit of faith?
Well, I think he's pissed off. I mean, you can see it.
Oh, he would have been
his body language on and off the field. You look at that press conference after the game.
Oh yeah, that was brilliant, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was rolling his eyes as the coach was talking and just not happy.
Yeah, he was filthy. So I think some of them questioned exactly the same question that I posed to you just then. Almost without directly saying it, but do you think you're doing enough, Kalen, to help this team out? Trying to beat around the bush a little bit, as the journos love to do, And I commend Kalen for how he actually handled that press conference. But in my opinion, he just needs to be better than that as the captain of the club, because he needs to remember that he's the example setter for all these young players from an attitude perspective. And regardless of how crap you're playing, you would never see Isaiah Yeo do that. You'd never see Nathan Cleary do that.
Yeah. So it's be better at leading. Be better leader.
Yeah. Be more inspirational.
Yeah, I agree.
It's almost like he's the best player at the club and that's why he's the leader, not that he's an actual leader.
Well, I think that's 100% the case, mate.
Yeah. Whereas,
100%.
And I think when you see the best player at the club drop the ball or lose interest or their attitude shifts, it can have a toxic effect. So I hope that doesn't happen for the Knights. And like I said, it's an opportunity for them to, bounce back and show a bit of ticker. Even still, it's probably not going to be enough to beat the Sharks. I think we can all comfortably say that. But you just want to see something from them because they undoubtedly probably have the best supporters in the comp. 20,000 plus people every single week at that ground. And there'll be another 20,000 plus this weekend at that game. You don't want to let that.
I feel for them after last week because to pay your hard-earned money and to watch that rubbish, and it was rubbish.
Yeah,
it's got to be soul-destroying.
Yeah. Now, final fixture Easter Monday: West Tigers versus the Eels.
So just before we preview this, I'm literally just getting reading an article right now. There's been a player-led mutiny at the Tigers. Superstar players have approached Benji Marshall saying they do not want Lachlan Galvin in the side. Alluding to Jerome Luai leadership group with him and Appy Coruscant have fronted the coach Benji, which has led to his decision to axe Lachlan Galvin from this week. So I think, boys, you're Lachlan Galvin, unless there's some catastrophic injury, I think his time in a Tigers jersey is going to be done.
Yeah. And look, I think even if two blokes...
Once you've lost the players, you're custard.
Yeah. I was just saying, if two blokes break their legs, they still won't bring Lachlan Galvin in just to make a point.
Just on point, yep.
He's the Jackson Hastings of Newcastle right now, isn't he?
Yeah, well, the players don't want him there, and good on them for sticking up to what they believe in. They obviously, they've created something this year, and they don't want to see it torn down, because this is suddenly a danger game for the Tigers, and you can imagine the headline the next day if they lose this to Parramatta.
Well, what do you think? Does Para have a sniff now due to all
I think
this
they
going
do.
on in the background?
And I think they'll know it too. And they'll come out and they'll try rattling the Tigers' cages. Whether they're capable of it's another thing.
Well, Mitch Moses is reportedly potentially back in, so I think that.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going.
Let's lock in the Eels.
I'm going the Eels. I'm going the Eels. I'm going it. I've talked myself into it. We saw with the DCE drama. Just the clouds build on this drama over teams, and I'm also just reading while you're talking. One of the Tigers players, Pole, has liked an Instagram post criticising Lachlan Galvin and his decision. So there is pure unrest within that camp. But at least
it's going to go one or two ways, right? So it's either going to galvanise the playing group now that he's not in the side, because they're like, all right, cool, everyone in the team right now is on the bus, and the person who wasn't on the bus is now out. Or it'll have that, effect. I think over the coming weeks, it will be a positive thing if it stays this way. Who knows? We might see a backflip and Galvin pledges his allegiance to the Tigers and signs. But I don't think it's going to happen.
I think it's gone.
Yeah, it's gone.
But I think long term it'll be better. This weekend, however, maybe massive ramifications.
Lock in the Eels. Lock them in. 10 plus.
Molly? Tigers or Eels?
I'll stick with the Tigers, but I'll say this. I think we're at the stage now. I was saying earlier, Galvin won't be there next year. He might not be there next month, the way things are going.
So is this, Molly, do you think this is the case? Do you feel a little bit sorry for Galvin as an individual in this? Do you think it's purely manager-led as opposed to player-led?
Yeah, I do. I think he's let his manager do too much of his thinking for him. He was happy at the Tigers. You could see it in his body language. You could see it when they won. I mean, he bought in the Benji's plan, and now all of a sudden we're hearing he doesn't rate Benji as a coach and he wants out. And nothing that happened on the field would indicate that. If they were 1-5 and, he could see, look, I'm going nowhere at this club, but the Tigers are a club on the rise. They've got some great young players. They had a good win last week, and all of a sudden I'm gone. So, yeah, I think his manager, and like I said, this isn't new. It's been brewing, and it's finally, as happens in rugby league, the volcano's exploded. And it's exploded in spectacular fashion. And, like I said, I'll be very surprised if he's there in a month's time. I mean, the players have said, we don't want to play with you. I now
agree. I don't know how.
What do you think, Dicko? What do you think about Galvin?
I think it's
Galvin as how he's been involved in all
I think it's a really good lesson for any athlete, right? In terms of you need to not be led by your manager. I don't begrudge Lachlan Galvin for testing the open market. I don't. That's his prerogative. He's allowed.
Let's be honest. Most players go, "Oh, I'll leave that up to my manager."
Yeah, and he's allowed to do that. And that's a throwaway line. That's a complete load of crap. That says I don't want to talk to you about it. You go and talk to a manager. That's all that is. I don't begrudge him for going to the open market. I mean, I think he's entitled to get as much money as he can get on the market. So I don't. If I was in his situation, upcoming player, you've got clubs chasing you. Why wouldn't you? But the way it is handled and the way it's been handled is it may be the worst contract situation I've ever witnessed myself. Right? I think at some point he has to take ownership and he has to go, you know what? that's not how I want this to be handled. I actually still really, as Molly said, really like the Tigers. But if we go down this path, this is what's going to happen. We can all see it. And this is what's ultimately happened, right? Is that he's let his manager do the thing. No one likes Isaac Moses as from what I can gather. Molly's told me Gus hates him, Trent Robinson, Nick Politis hate him.
Politis, yeah, there's a long list.
So, I mean, it's a reason for that, right? So, yeah, I don't, it's a really difficult one. I kind of feel sorry for the player a little, but I kind of don't, because you do have the ability to actually, drive the conversation with your manager, and he is not doing that. So I think it's a bit weak on his part. But in terms of the contract, I don't have an issue with him going to the open market. But what I have an issue about is, why are we talking about It's 2027, isn't it? That he will be at a new club, because he's contracted to next year.
Yeah, end of next year. Yeah.
Like we're in 2025. We're not even halfway through 2025 yet, and we're talking about where he's going in 27.
Yeah. Well, I think
this is a ridiculous situation I was talking about. That club players can sign for 2027. Well, in November he can anyway, but he's shown his hand now, or his manager has, and he's out of there, and it's just ridiculous. Like I said, if this happened in the NFL, it'd just be a laughing stock.
I think if anyone listening thinks that he's going to run out next year in a Tigers jersey and at any level, they are kidding themselves. I know I'm with Moley on this. I give him 4 to 6 weeks. I think he's Gonski. I can see a world where Dylan Brown ends up at Newcastle and Lachlan Galvin ends up at Parramatta this season.
If they can release Jackson Hastings, that'll happen, I think.
Yeah. But Gus might have something else to say about that, as you said, Moley. So
here's one from left field. What if Penrith say, we'll take Lachlan Galvin off your hands for the rest of the year? Wouldn't that
you got to be shitting me, Mole.
Hey!
Well, just hypothesizing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure there's a whole heap of clubs that would have him, but I think you're getting a lot of baggage if you have him. You're getting a lot of baggage because the manager's going to be involved.
I'll chime in here. Last year, Lachlan Galvin had a sook openly about, whether it was about Benji, about the club, the players, whatever, because they were losing, right? And almost walked out on the club then, last year, when they were going through their rut. He's contracted to the end of 2026. Testing the open market, I know, Dicko, you said, kudos to him. I disagree. He's been offered $1 million per season for 5 years at the club that backed him, gave him an opportunity, threw him in the deep end as an 18-year-old, regalvanized, no pun intended, the club, to then shit on him. I say, Lachlan Galvin, hold your head in shame. Stand up for yourself. And
loyalty means nothing. Loyalty means nothing, mate.
But
clearly.
Yeah, clearly.
It could affect the Tigers on Monday. Clearly the camp's not happy. There will be some players who will want Galvin to stay in the team.
You do not shit on the club that's given you the keys and then offered you $1 million a season. You just don't do that.
There has to be, Molly, there has to be an agreement in principle with some team. There has to be. Otherwise, why would you walk away now?
This is tactics.
Yeah, I think he knows the offers will come. It's like DCE. I mean, everyone's saying he must have a club, but Cherry knows deep down when push comes to shove, someone will make him an offer. It might not be the money he was on at Manly, but then Manly were going to cut his money too. So
does Isaac Moses manage Mitch Moses?
Yes.
Oh, well,
no, sorry. He gets one of his underlings too, I think.
So it's a management company that manages Mitch Moses,
yes.
yeah?
They've got coin,
yes.
right? They've got
Well, there you go. That's that. And isn't it his boyhood club? Didn't he support them?
I think he played juniors there. Didn't he play juniors at...
Yeah, he did. And well, basically, Parramatta said he wasn't going to make it. and that's how he ended up at the Tigers. So,
well, there you go. You heard it here first. I think Dicko thinks he's ended up in Parramatta by the end of this season. There you go.
I'll send him to Penrith. Like a get him on the pitch.
You're kidding. Yeah.
Oh my God. I tell you what, that's going up as an opinion piece after this. That will get the tongues wagging. That will get the tongues wagging. What? So is that just you going out on a whim, Molly, or are you?
No, that's a Melbourne Storm style deal, mate. That, you know, the jet skis and the boats out the back. That's what that is. That's how you fit them in the cap.
Yeah, no, it's very much just me off the cuff. But I mean, we said it here.
I'll tell you what, we need a 5'8".
Yeah, they need to do something very drastic.
Can you
make
imagine?
the finals?
Can you imagine?
You
Wowee.
I'd never watch another game.
Oh dear. Well, thanks, lads. That was a cracker. Enjoy the weekend. Good luck in the tips, and we'll touch base again next week.
Thanks, mate. Have a good one.
Sounds good, boys.